Hey everyone, welcome back to the Anti-Media for hour number 2 here. I'm your host, Jake Anderson, and I think tonight we're going to talk about privacy, what we have left of it. Because more and more, it certainly feels as though we're not citizens anymore. We're like consumer lab rats. Like, all we do is, gross generalization, obviously. There's good people doing good things, blah, 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 blah. But for the most part, your average American consumer feeds a system or two, takes care of their family, consumes, and then is consumed. We are consumed by the predator class, by the tech conglomerates for our data. Because that data is valuable to advertisers who then use that data to create things to sell back to us. So we're giving up ourselves as these lab rats. We're giving up our data. And then that data is being sold and bought and used to fashion something to make us buy more of an image that they've deduced. It's a very strange system we're in right now, and we're just now starting to, people have known for at least a decade about some of these privacy violations, but for the first time, this is really starting to hit the zeitgeist. And if you think Facebook is the extent of it, you're sorely mistaken. This is about to be a much bigger issue. And that's what I want to get into a little bit tonight is the big five. The big five tech companies, corporations. And ultimately, what do they and the government not know about us? Is there something that is sacred that they don't know about us? They don't quite have mind-reading technology yet, but we know they're working on it. Facebook's Building 8 is working on it. The government's DARPA is working on it. Google Minds is working on it. Google DeepMind. Because they need to know more about the brain in order to create artificial intelligence. We need to talk about this now because we're headed to a very dark future. Way worse than anything we would see in Black Mirror. So, unless you've been living under a rock for the last couple weeks, or unless you're smart and just don't have Facebook, by now you know that Facebook is in a big scandal right now because they were caught selling data to Cambridge Analytica, and that data was then used in an unethical manner, I guess, during the election. And, sadly, that's really the only reason people care about it is because it has the word Trump involved in it. Before the election, no one gave a shit. But so now the cat's out of the bag. Facebook knows a lot of stuff about us. They have an incredible amount of data on each and every one. And now this includes even the photos and links we send on Messenger. So don't think that using Messenger makes, encrypts it in some way. Not even close. Nothing you do on Facebook or Google is ever encrypted. And we'll try and get into some encryption stuff later, or maybe that's for another show. But there are steps we can take to start encrypting our movements so that we're not leaving behind these breadcrumbs of cookies and our data. And it's interesting because it's ironic because back in 2009, Zuckerberg specifically told the BBC, Facebook will never sell your information. And he just viciously lied. And we already know what he thinks of us. In his early days, he was quoted as saying, "They believe me, you fucking morons," of us. This is not a good guy. He's dismantling alternative media with algorithmic censorship. And at the same time, he's selling out to the highest bidder. So he's selling out in two ways. He's selling out by, bending over for the government, who doesn't want quote unquote fake news out there. And so he and Google and all the other big techs are algorithmically censoring content online. And then he's selling us out in another way by literally selling our data to advertisers. Now we find out today Facebook sent a doctor on a secret mission to discover data from hospitals. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, imagine what's going on that we don't even know about. It's just sickening. So, today I was writing a little bit. I was on Steemit. And by the way, if you're not on Steemit, you should get on there. It's a decentralized, blockchain-based social media network that allows you to actually earn cryptocurrency from your posts. And this is not a sponsored take for Steemit. I just think Steemit is decentralized and encrypted. Well, not encrypted in the standard way, but essentially your data isn't being harvested on there. That's not how they're making their money. Now, I don't even know if a business model like Facebook can sustain itself. Maybe we should be paying a little bit for it. I'd rather pay a little bit for Facebook than have, cameras on my toenails. All right, today I wanted to look up, I was like, well, surely Facebook's not the only one. And I already knew this, but someone recently, so a couple weeks ago I wrote about how there's a file you can download from Facebook that tells you at least some of what they're tracking of you. I'm sure it's not all of it. Because I personally believe the holy grail of all this, of course, is finding out that there's hot mics. And hot mics would be the idea that our phones and devices are surreptitiously always recording us and feeding that data to a central server that can be analyzed. So even when you're not using the internet, it's listening to everything you say. It's recording everything you do. I am convinced, and I have been convinced for 8 years now, that is going on. And I'm very confident I will be vindicated on that. But in the meantime, all we can go is on the evidence we have. And so this is what I wrote for Steemit today, is think Facebook is bad. Google has 10 times more data on you, including your physical locations. And what this guy did, this is all about surveillance capitalism. And what this web publisher, web developer, Dylan Curran, basically he downloaded his Google data file. And I guess, more people are doing that now. They offer it. So why not do it? Find out what Google has on you. And it was like a 5.5 gigabyte file, which is 10 times larger than the one Facebook has on you. And it's just ridiculous what they have. Like, it's not only tracking your web movements. Like, of course, it's tracking where you go on the internet. It's tracking your physical movements, man. It knows what countries you've been to, what bars you've been to, how long you stayed there, what route you take to get there. I mean, that is creepy, man. That's like that's Big Brother. That's 1984, except it's been outsourced to a corporation. And again, this is just what Google's telling us. It's a file you can download from Google. And I list the ways you can download some of these files. Frankly, I don't even want to know. It freaks me out. But I guess we need to. Okay. What about the other big tech companies? So there's 5 major tech conglomerates. There's Facebook, there's Google, then there's Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. Collectively, those 5 own just about every major tech service there is. And so, is there anything that they and the government combined do not know? I don't know. It's creepy. Very creepy. I mean, at the very least, I'm happy that people other than me, are finding this creepy. Because for a few years I thought I was losing my mind that no one gave a shit about this. But thankfully the buzzsaw of the 2016 election came about, which politicized everything. And now liberals that once couldn't give a frog's fat ass about privacy violations, now all of a sudden they're like, this is ridiculous. This is goddamn ridiculous. Trump is stealing our data for Facebook. Even though Obama did the exact same thing. This is a well-documented fact. The Obama campaign used Facebook in almost the exact same way that the Trump campaign did. This is not new. It's probably got a little worse because Zuckerberg clearly got a little, overzealous and didn't think anyone was ever going to crack down on him. But this isn't new, and it's not isolated to this. It's going on across the board. This is par for the course now. We are consumed. We're not just consumers now. We are the consumed. It's like a horror movie. So what I wanted to do, and I've looked up a little bit of this stuff, but just as an experiment, I wanted to look up how much personal information each of these companies has on us. Just in real time, just a Google search. Yeah, I'm going to use Google. It's ironic. Although, to be fair, I'm going to switch over, and we should all switch over to DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo is an encrypted web browser, that doesn't collect your data. See, the problem with this stuff is that these services are so ubiquitous now, so ingrained in our everyday lives, that we've gotten to this point where they're no longer opt-in. They're not real opt-ins. We do opt in to get the service, but really, how realistic is it for someone to just completely not use any of these major services? I need Google Docs for a ton of different work stuff. I use several Google organizational tools, and they're pretty good. I despise Facebook, but I need the Messenger app for work-related stuff, and I need the groups on there for work-related stuff. That's the way some people choose to organize their group, and I can't come in and say, "Oh no, I'm not going to be a part of this group because you use Facebook." That's just not realistic. And it's the same with all of them. Amazon does make it easier to buy stuff, but maybe ease is not what we need anymore. Maybe ethics is what we need. Cheesy enough for you? I don't know. All right, so let's start with... so at this point, we all have a pretty good idea of what Facebook and Google are doing. Although we could really just spend a whole show talking about what each of these companies are doing. How much personal info does Amazon have on us? So Amazon, of course, owns Alexa, which is the kind of AI assistant, speech assistant. And of course, a lot of the major tech companies have this. Google has their Google Assistant, but Alexa is probably the biggest one. And these assistants have been embedded in iPhones and Android smartphones. So Alexa is a major violator of privacy. In fact, there's an article here called Goodbye Privacy, Hello Alexa. There's another one here from Wired called Amazon Echo and the Google Home Record What You Say. Now, of course, comes back to what I've been saying, which is the big holy grail here, which, someone will win a Pulitzer Prize for reporting when they finally crack this, is that are they recording hot mics on all our devices and collecting everything we do and say? That would be a game changer if we found that out. Because then people were really going to have to do some soul searching. Is this really the kind of society we want to live in? When literally everything we do is being recorded. That is so messed up. That means if you go into the bathroom and your phone happens to be in your pocket while you're using the bathroom, your stuff's being recorded. Your stuff. Your stinky, farty stuff is now a piece of data owned by a tech conglomerate. I don't know. I don't think this is how we want to live. Maybe we need to forego a little bit of technological advancement until it's ethical advancement, until it will actually make the world a better place. Has Facebook made the world a better place? Some people would argue yes, that it's allowed interconnectivity across cultures. Some people would argue Google has made the world a better place by allowing this vast library of knowledge to come into our fingertips, democratizing knowledge, yada yada. But I would argue that the collateral damage from this advancement in many ways outweighs the benefits. It's a slippery slope argument. It's a nuclear bomb argument. It's like, we wouldn't have a lot of the technology we had without nuclear energy, but nuclear energy is obviously a very dangerous thing. These are just some of the conundrums that we have in our modern age. So, Amazon has Alexa. Alexa, does Amazon sell user data? What a nail biter. I wonder what the answer here is. Here, article from Wired. Amazon's next big business is selling you. What a surprise. Facebook knows who your friends are. Google knows what you're interested in finding on the internet. Amazon knows what you bought, and it has a pretty good idea of what you might want to buy next. This is Wired, not my favorite publication. But yeah, in short, yes, Amazon is selling our data. It's selling, what you look up, what you buy to advertising agencies. And then those advertising agencies use that information to deduce how to sell other things to you. This is our tech economy, people. This is surveillance capitalism. Naomi Klein talks about disaster capitalism, which is very real also. See, there's multiple kinds of capitalism, all interconnecting, and they're all predatory. Now, do I believe in a free market? Of course, yes. I am not. I know some anarcho-capitalists and libertarians probably hate me right now, but look, let's just be honest. I'm not a statist either, and I'm going to get into the government. I'm going to get into what they do too. But let's just be honest. This is not a sustainable system. We can't eat our own face off and then go out into public. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to eat our face and have it too. If we have a cannibalistic predator class of tech moguls eating culture from the inside and then selling it back to itself, that's not sustainable. That's why everyone's so fucking stupid now. I'm right. Goodbye privacy, hello Alexa. So, this article in The Guardian had some guy invite Alexa Echo into his home and to find out exactly what all that interaction data does. I hate reading these articles. This is all just kind of romanticizing technology. Moving on, how much personal information does Microsoft have on us? Interesting, this one, the price of free. How Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, and Google sell you to advertisers. It's interesting how this one leaves out Amazon. But anyway, So this one kind of goes into a summary of all these different things. Uh, what information does Facebook collect? It's no secret that there's little privacy in Facebook's privacy policy. Facebook knows your friends, what information you provide, what they say. Yeah. See, none of this knew that it was collecting data on not only you, but on any of your friends, too. And that there is kind of a constellation of data collectors all scooping in on this. Now, this is a mess. This is just a mess. How much personal information does Apple have on us? Now, some people argue that Apple is, not as bad as some of the others, but I don't know. Apple has Siri on there, so everything you say to Siri and where you were when you said it, that's what you gotta understand is it's not just your data, it's your metadata. So if you say into Siri, Siri, where can I buy a new iPhone? So it's not just going to tell you where the nearest iPhone store is. It's also, the metadata is going to reveal where you were when you made that request. They can use that information. They can use your end destination and your speaking destination to triangulate a route that you've taken. And they do this over and over and over again until they have a pattern. And then they sell the pattern. This is like stalking. It's like we've willingly let stalkers into our homes, into our cars, into our, every waking moment. We have stalkers monitoring everything we do. And they're wearing suits. And they're selling that information to other stalkers who are also wearing suits. So Apple, with its Siri, and of course with other products too, it has some fairly personal, non-personal data. Apple's privacy policy divides user information into personal and non-personal categories. And it stresses that the company does not give personal information to marketers, but it defines these two categories unevenly. Personal information is given a narrow definition, which includes your name, mailing address, phone number, email, contact preferences, and credit card information. Stuff you would definitely want kept secret. Apple says it uses these data only to improve its own products and advertising. Non-personal information, on the other hand, is a broader array of stuff Apple might share with third parties. And this is going to be the same shit, the who, what, where metadata that Facebook and Google does too. Where your devices and yourself are, how fast you're going. Wow, I didn't know that. It can monitor your road travel speed information. And any app that uses location data may also collect your road travel speed information. That's incredible. I did not even know that. There has been at least one instance of speed information making its way into the hands of law enforcement. TomTom, makers of mobile navigation tools, apologized to customers in 2011 after it was revealed that the company has sold traffic data to police in the Netherlands. The police have used it to set speed traps. Wow, that is fucking unbelievable. That's another thing about this. These fucking tech companies, they're also giving our information to the government and law enforcement agencies. It's happening all the time. That is so unethical, it's ridiculous. Not only are we being cannibalized and fed back a culture based on our consumption patterns, we're also in danger of being arrested because of information we use and share with our data apps. There's been multiple cases of people being arrested from information they posted online, but a lot of people will say, oh, well, if you willingly share something, okay, yeah, if you write on Facebook, I just killed a guy, then yeah, arrest the hell out of him. But in a less dramatic example, if you message someone, send a quote-unquote private message to someone, hey man, thanks for selling me the weed. Now, that would be a really stupid thing to say. Of course, I've probably done it before. In fact, I know I've done it before, back in the old days. But that information should not be available to a police unit that comes in and says, we want to scrape every message you have and look for keywords and metadata involving weed. And then we want to use that to create a database that we can use in the future when we're tracking people. That is insidious. That is insidious. In the olden days, we had separation of church and state. I think these days, we need a separation of technology and state. Technology is the god of the future. It's arguably the god of the present, but in the future, technology will be God for all intents and purposes. Our daily, like in the old days, our daily lives were ensconced in God and religion. In the future, our daily lives will literally flow through and out and in between technological services and gadgets. That will be our life. So we need a separation of technology and state. All right, what else we got here? By the way, my co-host, D.B. Schwartz, should be joining us soon. Oh, here's a nice little ditty. So this is a little bit, this is definitely off topic, but I posted this on Steemit too. So Walmart has patented autonomous robotic bees that are going to they're going to replace basically all the honeybees that are dying. So you may or may not know, whereas just basically an unprecedented epidemic of honeybees dying from various climate-related things. It's called colony collapse disorder. And so retail giant Walmart has filed a patent for autonomous robotic bees who will be used to pollinate crops. And this is precipitated by the decline of the natural honeybee population, which nourishes 1/3 of human food supplies, but are dying off at an unprecedented rate from a phenomenon known as colony collapse disorder. The pollination drones have been in development for years. So Harvard University researchers first introduced quote-unquote robo-bees in 2013, and they have advanced significantly since then. The tiny autonomous drones patented by Walmart are now amphibious, remotely controlled, and capable of detecting pollen. So these things can fly into and out of the water. I wonder if they're also being used for surveillance. God, what a shock that would be. It would shock me if it weren't being used for surveillance. Think about what the government is doing. If Walmart is filing a patent for autonomous bees to collect pollen. What do you think the goddamn government is doing with DARPA? They're like half a century ahead of any tech company. We already know that from past experience. We know that the government's secret technology arm, DARPA, is decades and decades ahead of the private sector. So if Walmart is just now filing a patent for autonomous bees, what does that mean for the government? Well, let's get into that for a minute. Since this is perfect, because this show is also, it was about what technology companies know about us, but it's also about what the government knows about us. They're the ultimate technology company. And so I wrote an article a while back about DARPA. Let me try and find this article real quick. Okay, so first of all, the Pentagon is looking for laser-powered bat drones for surveillance. That's right, you heard me right. The Pentagon wants laser-powered bat drones for surveillance. They probably already have them. But according to a new report, and this is from a few months ago, but according to a new report, the Pentagon wants to deploy bat-like drones powered by directed energy laser beams. They're looking for next-generation robots that mimic nature and function as autonomous surveillance and weapon systems. In recent years, the government's military agencies, including DARPA, have increasingly worked on implementing covert biomimetic projects. Biomimetic is nature imitating. So this is not just about bees now. This is about things like dragonflies. I mean, conspiracy theorists for years were talking about how there were insects spying on them. And it was fucking true. It was true. Maybe not all of it. But we know now that the government is looking for drones that look like insects and bats for surveillance. And it's just simply naive and stupid to think that it hasn't already been done. If we're just hearing about it now, it's already happened. So these efforts stem in part from, they date back to the 1999 when DARPA launched the Stealthy Insect Sensor Project, through which they attempted to use bees as bomb locators. As Annie Jacobson reports in her book, The Pentagon's Brain, An Uncensored History of DARPA, the insect-inspired drones are micro-air vehicles evolved into a near obsession, with the idea being to use biohybrids in order to fly, swim, crawl, walk, run, and swarm. This is just, and this all ties back into separation of technology and government. And unfortunately, with government, we can't have that. I just realized how incredibly impossible it is, because the government is naturally going to be at the top of the game in terms of technology, and it's naturally going to work synergistically with the top tech companies, which is already what's happening. The government's working with Google. Do you guys know that Google is now literally helping the government improve their drone strikes with artificial intelligence? That's right. The government contracted Google to use Google's artificial intelligence tools to help improve the efficiency of drone strikes. So every time we search something in Google, we're indirectly, tacitly supporting the military-industrial complex. That's how bad it is. So in another little piece here that I wrote for the Anti-Media, and this is from a couple months ago, a private research venture has produced a genetically modified cyborg dragonfly that can deliver payloads as well as perform guided pollination and surveillance missions. So Walmart may have just now filed a patent, but DARPA the ultra-secretive military agency of the government, has been doing this using cyborg dragonflies and bats and bees for surveillance missions for a while. They're using insects as covert forms of spying on citizens, which has long been the dream of the government. And this program is called Dragonfly. The GM cyborg is half insect, half machine. It is controlled via a fingernail-sized backpack. It's powered by a solar panel. So, of course, as with many things that DARPA develops, these are also, developed in collaboration with private companies. This one was developed with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. There is some evidence to suggest that insect drones are already used domestically to spy on citizens. In 2007, this conspiracy theory took shape when anti-war protesters reported strange buzzing insects. Written off as tinfoil material, officials dismissed the suggestion that the government used insect drones to spy. Interestingly, at this time, multiple witnesses reported erratic dragonfly-type objects hovering in the sky. The very next year, the U.S. Air Force announced that their intended use of insect-sized spies to infiltrate beings in order to photograph, record, and even attack insurgents and terrorists. So as usual, they're using the pretense and the auspices of terrorism and the war on terror to justify the use of, advanced surveillance, which violates, our constitutional rights. These are, again, micro-air vehicles, are spy machines, biohybrids,
just use an AR-15 on them.
Christ. You scared the hell out of me, man.
That's what I'm good at.
God. Just when I was really getting into a very paranoid state, you just really came out there and pulled my boxers down, man.
Hey, just use the AR-15 on them. We're good.
So, dude, what I've been talking about is kind of outlining the different ways that the big five tech companies are, out of control with their spying, and then how the government is doing is even worse. And we've talked about this before, how the government is, we know that DARPA is way ahead of anything in the private sector. So the fact that Walmart just took out a patent for autonomous robotic bees means, God knows what DARPA is doing. We already know they've been using bees and bats, biohybrids, to spy and do surveillance missions.
Dude, I think we've been on top so long that now there's enough countries out there that at least have somewhat of a parity with us, and that for the first time in a while we're actually kind of vulnerable. Like the oceans don't really mean a lot, and they're gonna do what they got to do to make up the gap. I mean, China's got the manpower and Russia's got nuclear missiles we can't shoot down, so we've got to come up with something else. I guess it's this.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of ways to justify it. And, look, I was arguing before that we need a separation of technology and state, but, that's obviously impossible. They have this, kind of synergistic relationship at this point, and there's just no way to separate them. And they're always going to be poaching the top tools off the biggest tech companies and using them. You heard that the government's using Google's AI to help improve drone strikes now. I mean, that is just...
They've been doing that for a while, though.
No, they haven't.
They have, because
they've worked with Google on other projects, not using their AI for drone strikes.
Well, they have to, because when they found out that Russia can basically do a localized EMP and knock out their Aegis radar guidance systems, knock out the entire electrical systems, they knew they were going to have to encase all of their drone internals in lead. So, in other words, they're not going to receive any transmissions, so they have to have AI. All the drones that you see now, the modern drones, are all AI, and they're all immune to EMP. So, I mean, you have to. That's the trade-off, because if they have any way to allow in a signal, that's what the EMP is, and that's how it knocks them out and fries all their mainframe. So
I'm just saying it shouldn't be Google doing it.
Well, who else? Who? I mean, it's like it shouldn't be ExxonMobil that's about to slant drill the North Pole, but who else?
True, man. I know. I guess there's just really no way out of it.
It's just these corporations are like, we watched that movie or the show. We both watched Fringe, and there's certain corporations that have, I mean, as much GDP as countries, so they just can pretty much run the gamut and do whatever they want, and they have monopolies, and they crush any kind of competition or buy it outright or kill the people developing the technology or discredit them and make them go crazy like Tesla. I mean, they have a million tricks up their sleeve to continue the system the way it is. I mean, the system perpetuates death and funnels money upwards, and it's horrible for humanity. It's why we're still stuck on Earth. We should be long gone and exploring everything we can, but no, we have to let a couple psychopaths run everything.
It really depresses me that we're still stuck here. We can't go to other planets yet.
We're not allowed off, don't you think?
Yeah, probably not. I bet you will. When it gets to that point where we're finally headed out in some starships, all of a sudden we're going to be quarantined by some, cabal of aliens and government officials saying, "Nope, back you go."
Well, until we're ready. I mean, if you think about the average human being on the planet, they're probably not ready for space travel and meeting aliens. I mean, we can barely coexist.
True.
That's what it's about, Jake. It's like we're on the cusp of actually either just annihilating ourselves and knocking ourselves back to the Stone Age, or kind of requisitioning the tech that's been used for destruction and war and chaos and turning it into, outward exploration so we can, prosper, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there is that theory. I mean, it's one of the Fermi paradox explanations. Why don't we see more alien species? Well, it's basically when they get to the stage we're at now, they self-destruct. And so there's just a certain level of intelligence. Now, I don't really buy that. I don't think that would explain every galaxy in the universe, but that with a certain level of intelligence.
But how naive of us to think that carbon-based is the only life form. I mean, we're about to create silicon-based ourselves. So
I've been saying that for 10 years, man. It is almost a certainty that there are other kinds of life that are not even based on carbon. There could be a methane-based life form, a silicon-based.
Jake, do you think in a parallel dimension that the other planets of our solar system are inhabited?
It's a good question. It'd be interesting if Mars and Earth were kind of flip-flopped. I mean, do
you think things live on Jupiter, Saturn, these gas giants? Do you think something evolved in a different dimension, or even is there that we can't see?
Well, I think in this universe there could be. There's theories that Jupiter may have kind of like giant atmospheric whales. There's the idea that there's intelligent octopi underneath the ice of Europa, and possibly on what's the other one? Ios. Io. Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's just going to be that humans are arrogant and don't fully understand the variety of life, and we just assume that because something looks different than us and it's not intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, and there's different kinds of intelligence too. I mean, just because something doesn't develop technology does not mean that it's inferior in intelligence.
Absolutely.
I think we can argue that dolphins' body-to-weight ratio is about the same as a human. It's just they're having a completely different experience than us. They're using sonar. They're living in an environment where they can move in 3D. And, I mean, tools are almost an afterthought in a weightless place like that. You're really just trying to develop a way to knock your food out, eat it, and enjoy swimming. So I don't think dolphins are any dumber than the average human.
Oh, no, I mean, absolutely not. We're just the most arrogant species. But I mean, even look at a dog. I mean, a dog, they're experiencing things with their nose that we can't even comprehend. Like they're ascertaining knowledge and processing knowledge about the earth and the environment that we're never ever going to understand because their sense of smell is so advanced. And that's just a dog. I mean, imagine what's going on with an elephant or like you said, a dolphin or birds. And that's just on this planet. There could be beings, creatures on other planets that are 100 times smarter than us, but they're simply choosing to wield that knowledge in a way that is either sustainable, self-sufficient, or maybe other species have figured out how to discover the truth of the universe without even leaving their pond.
You don't need things to be happy if you've completely evolved your environment, which leads me to believe that we're partly Terran and we're partly something else. I mean, our backs go from the gravity eventually, and we do horrible in sunlight. Even the darkest among us can sunburn. So I feel like we truly are a hybrid, and we're a slave species in a way because we're struggling against an environment that we can't master. It's at least partly alien. That's just my own thoughts and feelings. And I think like our future and our destiny really is to get off of Gaia or Terran or whatever you want to call this planet. It's wonderful. It sustains us. But I think we'd be better served if we would just spread out.
Well, what other environment do we need?
I don't know. I feel really good in water, except that of course you get the skin can't handle it. So I mean, I don't know, dude. I just and everybody likes staying inside too, where it's nice and comfortable. So yeah, I don't know, man. Sometimes I think we're from somewhere else.
Yeah, maybe. It is very mysterious, very mysterious.
Plus, we're the only species with the 23 chromosomes, so.
Yeah, I wonder, that was Stephen Hawking's final paper there is about how to detect other parallel universes. What a way to go out, his final paper.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's free now.
Yeah, he's soaring with the gods now.
He's like, oh shit, I guess everybody was right.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed out about that, man. But he lived about like 40 years longer than he was expected to.
Yeah, no. But you know what? There's always going to be those people that say, "What the last years he had radical change in his personality, where they actually just pumping words out of it."
Yeah. I mean, for what purpose? Like if they could do that, they would have kept him alive longer.
Well, maybe he just died. I don't know. Can you clone a guy like that? That's sick. I don't. It would be tough to create a double. I mean, maybe he just died. So, you look at a lot of people like Kissinger's still alive. I mean, these people are well over 100.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd. Kissinger and Rockefeller. It's absurd that
Rockefeller died, but
really? Did he?
Yeah, he died.
When?
So he died last year, I think, he died last year.
Yeah,
no, he died at the beginning of this year, I think.
That's total Mandela effect for me.
Yeah, I mean, these patriarch types they're being offed or they're dying, and generations are taking over that are, maybe not nearly as completely psychopathic. So
you have to wonder whether they were trying to clone, or not clone, but upload the consciousnesses of these people.
Even if they were, what sweet justice for them to have to spend eternity in 2D.
Yeah.
Idiots. You're supposed to die, okay? This is the video game, and when you die, you go back to the real.
Interesting. Yeah, that's what they've said about DMT, which is it's more real than real.
Yeah. You go back to source, and then you get to... So you can keep this personality, it's one of many you've had, and one of multiple lives you've had, and you're going to return to your soul group, which will be like your mother, father, all the people in your life, basically, that affected you. And if you lived a positive life, you're going to go join people that had a positive effect. If you live negatively, you're going to probably go somewhere you don't want to go. So that's your choice. This is an audition.
It's a wonderful thought. I hope it's like that. I might go to Peru next summer.
Yeah, I mean, just go places where you can lose yourself and you can leave your body and have some kind of an astral projection experience. Do ayahuasca, see your true face. I
Well,
mean,
that's what I'm going to do. I was thinking about doing it this summer, but I don't know. I kind of chickened out.
you got to
But
do it before they really screw it up because they're putting an airstrip up in Machu Picchu. So anybody listening, if you haven't gone to Machu Picchu yet, you better go quick.
yeah, I mean, Machu Picchu is cool, man. I don't care about a like specific spot. I just want to go experience another culture and do ayahuasca. And
Well, that's
yeah,
where to go.
I've just talked to too many people who have done it and just say that it's intense, but it's like I don't know. I just it's it. I've read about recarving your neural pathways to think
It
differently,
does.
and I think that's what I need.
It has residual effects too. Like I want to tell you that it can take years for it to really kick in because, like you said, when it carves a new neural pathway, you have to think of the brain as like tree roots, and if tree roots hit something like a rock underneath the earth that they can't get through, then they move around it, and that's how they adapt. And like that's essentially what happens is everybody's got these rocks in their pathways from traumatic experiences in our past, and we compartmentalize. And you can confront those and overcome them by doing ayahuasca. Essentially, that's the main goal and gain of using it. And it could be one session, or it could be, a lot of people say to do it 3 nights in a row. I didn't, but if you do, I mean, there's been people that have had bad trips, but I've never heard of anybody that's used it that said, God, I wish I hadn't. It's just either you have a bad trip and you sort of forget it, or you actually get something like profound out of it.
Yeah, no, I like that metaphor about the roots going around the rocks. It's great.
We
Yeah,
all
no,
had those traumas too. Like you remember things from your past. Like I remember getting beat up as a kid by my neighbor and like feeling bad about it. And now realizing like there was literally nothing I could do. When somebody's twice your size, you just take it. There's nothing you do. It's like a life learning experience. Like you're lucky you just didn't get beat up even worse, and you don't have to feel bad about yourself for that, you know?
yeah, no. I mean, I've also read some reports by this scientist who is very keenly interested in DMT from a scientific perspective. He I don't think he ever did it himself. He probably did, but anyway, he was researching what he described as an inordinate percentage of DMT users that report kind of interaction with some kind of extra dimensional being, and it's a very interesting thought to think that it's a gateway and it's the only way that we can contact certain beings that are kind of ubiquitous in reality, that go through multiple dimensions. It sounds a little Huey. I know people are out there like, what? You were talking about Amazon, now you're talking about extra dimensional beings, but it kind of flows together. Hey, you can find this stuff online, just don't find it through Google, Amazon, or Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the best thing you could do to start with is DuckDuckGo
Yeah.
for search terms. I mean, or even Startpage or anything that's their business model is not based on making you into an algorithm. That's just number one. And do your best to get a nice VPN. It protects you from people that are going to try to dox you, and then also screws up again the algorithm on you because you're in different places. So just don't make it easy.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Don't make yourself like. Obviously, you don't want to make yourself a target by being like super hacker, because then they're going to be like, "What's this guy hiding?" But you don't don't want to be unprotected.
Use encrypted tools, use blockchain networks, and most importantly, use DMT
And LSD.
and LSD. Well, I've had my fair share of that, but I've heard that DMT is completely different
Yeah,
than
it is.
is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, LSD is just a trip. I mean, but I don't think you get anything out of it that's gonna make your life different. I mean, you're gonna get the experience of it, but I always considered LSD to be a lot like mushrooms, but like an electric, like '80s neon version of them or something. Like all the colors, shapes, and everything is amazing, and the sensory overload. You don't really get the same introspection unless I think you cross like a threshold, like Timothy Leary said. Like there's a certain threshold you have to cross when you get this inspiration from the gods. So I've never done it to that extent. I wonder what it's like if you do.
God, yeah, no, I mean, I've never taken it to that extent either, but I wonder if Timothy Leary ever did DMT.
You'd think. I mean, God, they probably had access to everything.
I know. I'd be shocked to find out he didn't, but he was such an advocate for LSD. Terence McKenna was a big activist for all these things. I'm pretty sure he did DMT by the bushel.
He loved psilocybin though, and he said it was it could heal the world, and now there's been proof that it does. Like if you have especially PTSD, it really, really helps.
Yeah, he was big into mushrooms. Terence McKenna was, and if you haven't heard of Terence McKenna, people, like, go look into Terence McKenna. He's a
really good writer.
Incredible writer, way ahead of his time. He was basically like a Hunter S. Thompson of metaphysical psychedelics.
Yeah, he was Hunter S. Thompson if Hunter S. Thompson had done psychedelics instead of drank himself into a fucking suicidal stupor.
Right, yeah, and I realize, obviously, Thompson did fair share of psychedelics, but yeah, he kind of went to the dark side of drugs.
He just became an alcoholic, man.
Yeah. He would have been a lot more effective if he had controlled himself a little bit more.
It's crazy that it's like the thing that's illegal is always the downfall. It's like, like Chris Farley, it wasn't the coke that killed him. It was the fact that he was drunk as fuck and then did a bunch of coke, and then his heart exploded.
Well, he was eating 5 times more than most people too.
Yeah, that too. And but it's just that liquid poison, man. It makes everything 10 times worse.
Yeah, don't do the alcohol, folks. All right, well, a lot of mind jazz tonight. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for joining us, DB. Peace. Talk to you guys soon. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.